"It hurts. Let's try tonight," the bride whispered. But the rancher spent hours. The ranch was quiet now. The laughter, the music, and the chatter of the wedding guests had faded hours ago, leaving only the soft sound of the wind rustling through the trees. Inside the small, cozy house, the newly married couple sat together, though neither spoke at first. The day had been long, filled with ceremonies, congratulations, and countless moments where both had tried to meet everyone's expectations. Now, alone in the room that would mark the beginning of their married life, reality settled in. The bride sat on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her dress, once crisp and perfectly arranged, now hung loosely, slightly wrinkled from hours of movement. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. The excitement of the day was still there, but it was mingled with a strange ache, a physical tiredness that came from standing for hours, smiling constantly and holding herself perfectly in front of so many eyes. More than that, though, there was a vulnerability she hadn't felt before. She looked at the rancher, sitting a few feet away, his strong hands resting on his knees. He had changed into something more comfortable, the formal suit now replaced by a simple shirt and jeans. His eyes, however, still held that calm, steady intensity she had admired since the day they first met. He looked at her with patience, as though waiting for her to speak, and yet he did not push. She could feel the warmth in the room, a sense of safety that made her heart beat a little faster. "It hurts. Let's try tonight," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. She hadn't meant to sound so nervous, but the words escaped before she could stop them. The rancher's eyes softened, and he stood slowly, moving closer to her. He did not rush. He did not try to push the moment forward. Instead, he sat beside her and gently took her hand in his. The simple touch, firm and reassuring, seemed to ease some of the tension in her chest. He smiled softly. "Only if you're ready," he said, his voice quiet, filled with understanding. "We don't have to do anything tonight if you're not comfortable." Her lips parted slightly, surprised by his words. She had expected a different reaction, perhaps impatience or insistence, but not this. This patience, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and gratitude. She nodded slowly, still holding his hand, feeling the strength in his touch. For a long time they simply sat together, in silence. The room was dimly lit by a single lamp on the bedside table, casting soft shadows across the walls. Outside, the stars twinkled faintly, barely visible through the open window. The cool breeze carried the scent of fresh grass and wildflowers from the ranch. It was peaceful, almost magical, and yet beneath the calm there was an unspoken tension, the anticipation of something new and unfamiliar. The rancher leaned back slightly, still holding her hand, and watched her closely. He noticed the small things, the way she shifted uncomfortably, the slight wince when she adjusted her position, the way her eyes darted nervously to the floor. He didn't speak immediately, choosing instead to let her adjust at her own pace. Then, in a gentle voice, he asked, "Do you want me to help you sit back? Maybe get more comfortable?" She hesitated, then nodded. With careful movements, he helped her lean back against the pillows, adjusting them so she felt more supported. He draped a soft blanket over her shoulders, and she felt warmth spread through her body. The act was simple, but to her it felt like an expression of deep care and consideration. "You don't have to be perfect tonight," he said softly, almost to himself. "You just have to be here, with me." She smiled faintly, the corners of her mouth lifting in a way that made him notice the subtle shift in her expression. The tension in her body began to ease, if only slightly. She felt a little braver now, knowing that he was patient, that he would not rush her, that he would wait until she was ready. Time passed slowly. He didn't push, but he didn't disappear either. He stayed close, talking quietly about small, mundane things. Stories from his childhood on the ranch, memories of his first horse, funny moments from the wedding day. Each word was carefully chosen to make her laugh, to make her relax, to make her feel safe. She found herself smiling more, even laughing quietly at a few moments he shared. And yet, the ache remained. It was not something that could be fixed with words or laughter alone. The day had left her physically drained, and there was a part of her that worried she would disappoint him, that her body would betray the love she felt. She closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath, and allowed herself to feel the vulnerability fully. The rancher noticed the way her hands tightened around his and gently squeezed back, reassuring her without saying a word. Then he leaned forward slightly, brushing a strand of hair from her face, tucking it gently behind her ear. The motion was tender, careful, and filled with an unspoken promise that he would be patient, that he would be there through every moment, no matter how long it took. "Do you want me to stay here with you?" he asked quietly, his voice soft, almost a whisper. She nodded, the simple gesture speaking more than words could. He sat closer, still holding her hand, letting her feel his presence without pressure. They remained like that for hours, the night stretching quietly around them. Occasionally, she would wince slightly or adjust her position, and each time he would respond with a gentle touch or a soft word, never impatient, never frustrated. It was in these hours that she realized something important. Love was not just in the grand gestures, the ceremonies, or the celebrations. Love was in the patience, in the quiet presence, in the willingness to wait until the other person was ready. And as she felt the weight of the day slowly lift from her shoulders, she began to trust him more deeply, to feel safe in his care, to believe that together they could face anything. The night outside the window began to change. The stars slowly faded as the first hint of dawn crept across the sky. Light spilled softly into the room, illuminating the gentle expressions on both their faces. For a moment the bride felt a strange mixture of relief and anticipation. She was still nervous, still aware of her physical pain, but she also felt a deep connection, a bond that had grown quietly in the hours they had shared together. The rancher, sensing the shift in her mood, gave her hand one final gentle squeeze before letting go. "We'll take this one step at a time," he said, his voice steady. "Always. No rush, no pressure. Just us." She nodded again, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. Not tears of sadness, but of relief and gratitude. Relief that he understood her, that he respected her, that he would never make her feel anything less than safe and valued. Gratitude for his patience, his quiet care, his unwavering support. As the first rays of sunlight filtered into the room, she rested her head gently against the pillows, feeling his presence nearby. For the first time that night, she allowed herself to breathe fully, to let go of the tension, to simply be. And as she closed her eyes, a small, contented smile formed on her lips. In those quiet hours, they had built something more than just a connection of love. They had built trust, understanding, and the knowledge that no matter what came next, they would face it together, patiently, gently, and with hearts full of care. And though the night had been long, filled with uncertainty and hesitation, it had also been perfect in its own way. It was a night where love had spoken softly, not with grand gestures, but with the quiet, steadfast presence of one person caring deeply for another. And as the rancher watched her for a moment before resting nearby, he knew that this was only the beginning of a lifetime of patience, support, and unwavering love. The morning sun streamed softly through the curtains, painting the room in warm shades of gold. Outside, the ranch was quiet, the only sound being the occasional rustle of leaves and distant birds singing. Inside the bridal suite, the bride stirred. feeling the comfort of the blankets wrapped around her. The night had passed slowly, with long hours spent in quiet togetherness, but she felt a sense of calm she had never experienced before. The rancher was still nearby, sitting in the chair by the window, his eyes on her, filled with gentle attention. She took a deep breath, noticing how different she felt now compared to the night before. There had been tension, nervousness, and uncertainty, but it had all faded under the careful patience of the man beside her. Slowly, she swung her legs over the side of the bed, testing her body, and realized that she was less sore than she had expected. Her body still ached in small ways, but it was manageable now. More importantly, her heart felt lighter, free from the fear of being rushed or judged. The rancher noticed her movement immediately. He stood, crossing the room in long, quiet steps, and extended a hand toward her. "Take your time," he said softly. "There's no hurry." She smiled faintly, taking his hand and letting him help her stand. The gentle grip gave her a sense of steadiness, and for the first time that morning she felt capable, supported, and ready to face the day ahead. Together they moved to the window where the sunlight spilled across the floor. Outside, the ranch stretched wide, fields of green and brown blending with the soft glow of the morning. She took a deep breath, letting the fresh air fill her lungs, and for a moment she felt almost weightless. The rancher leaned against the window frame, watching her quietly. He admired the way she took in the world around her, how her eyes sparkled with a mix of awe and contentment. He did not speak, simply allowing her to breathe and move at her own pace. There was something comforting about his silence, a reassurance that he would not push her before she was ready. After a while, she turned to him, a small smile on her face. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft. "For last night, for everything. I felt safe. I've never felt so safe before." He smiled back, his eyes warm and steady. "You are safe," he said simply. "And I will make sure you always feel that way. You don't have to worry about anything. Not now, not ever." Her smile widened, touched by the sincerity in his voice. She could feel the honesty in every word, the care that radiated from him. It made her heart swell, and she realized that this was what she had been missing, someone who would not only love her, but respect her, protect her, and stand by her side patiently, without judgment. They spent the morning together in quiet conversation. She told him about her childhood, the small memories she had forgotten over the years, and he listened, never interrupting, offering gentle encouragement. He shared stories from his own past as well, painting a picture of life on the ranch, the challenges he had faced, and the lessons he had learned. They laughed softly at the funny moments, and she felt herself relaxing further, the bonds of trust growing stronger with each passing minute. At one point, she looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and hesitation. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course," he replied, his voice steady and reassuring. Why are you being so patient with me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Other people might have been impatient. They might have expected more. But you didn't." He paused for a moment, considering his answer. "Because love isn't about rushing or forcing things," he said finally. "It's about understanding, about being there for each other, about patience. I care about you. That means I care about how you feel. I don't want you to ever feel unsafe, uncomfortable, or pressured. I want you to feel free with me." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. She had never heard anyone speak like that to her before, never felt so truly understood. For the first time, she realized that the love she felt for him was not just about passion, it was about trust, safety, and genuine care. And as she looked at him, she knew he felt the same way. The day continued slowly, each hour blending into the next. They moved around the ranch, tending to small tasks together. She watched him handle the chores with quiet confidence, his strength apparent in every movement, but tempered with gentleness. He noticed her curiosity and offered to teach her some of the simpler tasks, showing her how to care for the animals, repair fences, and navigate the vast fields. She laughed at her own mistakes, and he laughed with her, never criticizing, always encouraging. As the afternoon sun rose higher in the sky, they returned to the house to rest. She lay on the couch, a soft blanket draped over her, while he prepared a simple lunch. She watched him move around the kitchen, admiring the care he put into even the smallest details. When he brought the food over, they ate quietly, the silence comfortable and unforced. She realized that she had never felt this level of peace in her life, and it made her heart ache in the best way. A sweet, tender ache of love and contentment. The bride felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. The previous night had taught her that the rancher's patience was infinite, and that gave her courage, but she still felt vulnerable. Her body remembered the pain, and she worried about disappointing him. The rancher noticed the hesitation in her movements and the slight tightening of her hands. He did not comment, did not rush. Instead, he knelt beside the bed, gently taking her hand. "We don't have to do anything," he said softly. "We can just sit here, talk, or even rest. It's okay." She nodded, feeling the warmth of his hand, the reassurance in his words. Slowly, she allowed herself to relax, to let go of the fear, to trust him fully. They sat together for hours, sometimes talking, sometimes simply holding each other, the quiet intimacy of shared presence deepening their connection. At one point, the bride spoke, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't want to let you down," she admitted. I want to be close to you, but I'm scared it might hurt again." He cupped her face gently in his hands, his thumbs brushing lightly across her cheeks. "We will take it one step at a time. I will never make you do anything before you're ready. We are in this together, always." Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of relief and gratitude. She realized that he meant every word, and that knowledge gave her strength. She rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart, and allowed herself to simply breathe. The moment was quiet, yet powerful. A testament to trust, patience, and love that was deeper than words. The afternoon turned into evening, and the sky outside shifted to soft shades of pink and orange. They watched together from the window, the ranch stretching out endlessly before them. In that silence there was understanding, connection, and the unspoken promise that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. By nightfall, the bride felt a sense of courage she had not known before. She understood that intimacy was not about rushing, about physical action alone. It was about trust, respect, and care, qualities the rancher had shown her in abundance. She realized that she could be vulnerable without fear, that she could lean on him, and that he would never falter in his patience. As the stars appeared once again in the night sky, she looked at him with a quiet determination. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion, "for staying with me today. For everything, everything. I feel safe with you." He smiled, the soft glow of the lamp highlighting his features. "And you always will," he said. "No matter what, you will always feel safe with me. That's a promise." For the rest of the night, they sat together in quiet companionship, talking softly, laughing quietly, and sharing the small, meaningful gestures that spoke volumes. The bride felt her fear slowly dissolve, replaced by confidence in their love, trust in his patience, and gratitude for the care he had shown her. It had been a long day, filled with small victories, deep conversations, and emotional moments. And though nothing had happened that night beyond shared presence and quiet connection, The bride knew that this was only the beginning. She felt hope, love, and the comforting knowledge that her new life with the rancher would be filled with patience, understanding, and unwavering care. The morning light spilled gently across the ranch, illuminating the fields in soft gold. The bride woke early, feeling a quiet excitement mixed with a lingering nervousness. The previous days had been full of new experiences, emotions, and lessons in trust. She had begun to understand that love was not just about words or appearances. It was about presence, patience, and connection. She stretched lightly and looked across the room. The rancher was already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, his gaze thoughtful as he watched her. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice carrying the warmth of a smile. "Good morning," he replied, his tone calm and steady. "Did you sleep well?" "Better than I expected," she admitted, adjusting the blanket around her shoulders. "Thank you for being patient with me, for everything." He nodded, a quiet smile on his lips. Patience isn't difficult when it's with someone you care about. "I'll always wait for you." She felt her heart swell at his words. There was something comforting about the certainty in his voice, the promise of care that was unshakable. She rose slowly, still feeling the tiredness in her muscles from the long days of celebration, and moved closer to him. He reached for her hand, and the warmth of his touch steadied her. The morning passed quietly, with small shared activities around the ranch. The bride followed him as he checked on the animals, showing her the gentle way he handled each creature. He explained how to feed the horses, brush the cows, and care for the chickens, all the while encouraging her and praising her efforts. She laughed at her occasional clumsiness, and he laughed with her, making her feel at ease. Every small gesture built a bridge of trust between them, a bond that grew stronger with each passing moment. After tending to the animals, they returned to the house. She watched as he prepared a light breakfast, his movements steady and confident. The smell of fresh bread and warm coffee filled the room, adding to the comforting atmosphere. They ate together at the kitchen table, speaking softly, sharing stories and small jokes. The simplicity of the moment made her heart feel light. For the first time in her life, she realized that love could be expressed in these quiet, everyday actions, not only in grand gestures or dramatic words. Later, they moved to the porch carrying mugs of coffee. The ranch stretched out endlessly before them, fields blending with the distant hills. The breeze was soft, carrying the scent of wild flowers and fresh grass. They stood side by side, drinking slowly, letting the calm of the morning sink into their bones. The bride turned to him, a hint of hesitation in her expression. "Can I ask you something?" she said quietly. "Of course," he replied, turning to face her with that same steady, reassuring gaze. "Why? Why are you always so calm? You never rush me, never pressure me. I've never met anyone like that," she said, her voice trembling slightly. He smiled softly. "Because love isn't about hurry or demand. It's about understanding, care, and respect. I want you to feel safe, not only with me, but with yourself. That's what matters most. Everything else will come naturally, in time." Her eyes glistened as she listened to his words. She felt seen, understood, and valued in a way that went beyond words. She realized that his patience was not just kindness. It was a reflection of how deeply he cared for her as a person, not just as a partner. The rest of the day passed in similar fashion. They worked together on small projects around the ranch. He showed her how to repair a fence post, and she carefully followed his instructions, occasionally making mistakes and laughing at herself. He encouraged her gently, showing that mistakes were part of learning and that there was no judgment in their shared space. By the afternoon, the sun hung high in the sky and the warmth seeped into every corner of the ranch. They sat under a large oak tree, resting after a morning of activity. She leaned against him, feeling the solid warmth of his body beside hers. The gentle rocking of the tree and the soft rustling of leaves created a peaceful rhythm. "I feel different today," she said quietly, almost to herself. "I feel like I can trust you fully, like I can let go of fear." He turned to her, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "And you can," he said firmly. "You can trust me completely. You don't have to worry about anything. Not now, not ever. I will always be here." Her lips curved into a small, grateful smile. She felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of relief, love, and anticipation for the future. She rested her head against his shoulder, letting herself feel safe in a way she had never known before. As the day shifted into evening, the couple returned to the house. The light of the setting sun cast warm hues across the walls. They moved slowly, enjoying the comfort of shared presence. The bride felt a growing courage, a quiet strength, knowing that the rancher would never rush her, would never make her feel inadequate. She understood that their bond was rooted in patience, respect, and care, and that knowledge gave her confidence to explore her feelings and emotions more openly. That night, they sat together in the bedroom once more. The bride felt nervous again, aware of the vulnerability she carried from the previous experiences. Her body remembered the slight discomfort, and she worried she might not meet his expectations. Yet, looking at him, she found reassurance. He was patient, steady, and attentive. He did not demand, did not pressure. He simply offered his presence and care. "Do you want to try?" she asked quietly, her voice tinged with uncertainty. He shook his head gently, smiling. "We can take as long as you need. Tonight is about comfort, connection, and trust. Nothing else matters." Her heart swelled at his words. She realized that love did not need to be rushed. It did not need to be measured in actions or accomplishments. Love was present in these quiet, intentional moments, in the way he cared for her, and in the trust they were building together. They spent hours in quiet companionship, talking softly about hopes, dreams, and memories. She shared stories from her past, revealing moments of vulnerability and fear that she had never spoken aloud. He listened intently, responding with understanding and encouragement. The conversation flowed naturally, sometimes quiet, sometimes filled with laughter, but always rooted in care and respect. As the night deepened, she felt a sense of courage growing inside her. She understood that intimacy was not only physical, it was emotional, a connection that required trust, patience, and understanding. She realized that she could open herself fully to him, knowing he would honor her comfort and well-being above all else. The rancher noticed the shift in her demeanor. He reached for her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "You're doing perfectly," he said softly. "Every step you take is the right step. We're in this together, always." Tears formed in her eyes, not from sadness, but from relief and gratitude. She felt her heart expand with trust and love. She leaned against him, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, and allowed herself to simply exist in the safety of his presence. Outside, the stars appeared once again, their soft glow reflecting in the quiet ranch. Inside, the bride and the rancher shared a connection that went beyond words. It was a bond built on patience, understanding, and the willingness to be vulnerable with one another. And in that moment, she understood that love was not about speed or urgency. It was about the quiet, steadfast commitment to care for someone fully and without condition. Hours passed, and still they remained together. The bride felt her fear slowly dissipate, replaced by a deep trust and the knowledge that the rancher would always be there to support her. She realized that this was more important than anything else. Not rushing, not achieving, not proving anything. Simply being together, caring for each other, and building a bond rooted in trust was the greatest gift she could imagine. As the night stretched on, they finally rested, sitting together in silence, holding hands and feeling the quiet strength of their connection. The rancher gently rested his hand on her shoulder, and she leaned her head against him, feeling warmth, safety, and love. It was a moment of pure understanding, a moment that spoke louder than words ever could. In those quiet hours, the bride understood that patience and care were the true foundations of love. She had learned that intimacy was not a goal to achieve, but a journey to share. And as she closed her eyes, resting against the steady presence of the man who cared for her so deeply, she knew that their love would grow stronger, guided by trust, understanding, and an unwavering commitment to one another. The night ended with a sense of peace and hope. Though they had not crossed any boundaries or rushed into anything, the connection between them had deepened profoundly. They had built a foundation of trust and emotional intimacy that would guide their lives together, ensuring that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, with patience, care, and love. The sun rose slowly over the ranch, casting a golden glow across the wide fields and wooden fences. The bride woke early, feeling the soft warmth of the morning light on her face. She stretched carefully, aware of her body but filled with a new sense of strength and calm. The nights and days they had spent together had been slow and deliberate, each moment building a quiet but powerful bond. She realized now that love could be gentle and patient, and that feeling safe in someone's care could be more powerful than any grand gesture. The rancher was already awake, standing at the window, gazing across the fields. When he saw her stir, a soft smile appeared on his face. He walked toward her slowly, careful not to startle her. "Good morning," he said quietly, his voice steady and calm. "Good morning," she replied, a small smile tugging at her lips. She felt a calmness that she had never felt before, a sense that everything was right, that they were right, and that the trust they had built could carry them through anything. He extended a hand to her, and she took it without hesitation. The simple touch was comforting, reassuring, and filled with quiet strength. Together they moved to the porch, carrying mugs of coffee. The ranch stretched endlessly before them, the early light casting long shadows and making the trees and fields glow. They stood side by side, drinking slowly, letting the peacefulness of the morning seep into their bones. "I feel different today," she said quietly. "Like I understand something important now. Like I can be myself, fully, without fear." He turned to her, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear gently. "That's because you can," he said simply. "You've taken the time to trust, and that trust has grown into something strong and beautiful. You don't have to worry about anything. You never will. Not with me." She felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but they were tears of gratitude, relief, and love. She had never felt so seen and understood in her life. For the first time, she realized that love was not about rushing, about pressure, or about proving herself. It was about connection, patience, and the simple presence of someone who cared deeply and unconditionally. The morning passed with quiet conversation and shared tasks. They walked through the fields, tending to the animals and checking fences. He showed her small techniques, guiding her patiently whenever she hesitated. She laughed at her occasional mistakes, and he laughed softly with her, never once criticizing. Every step, every shared action strengthened the bond between them. It was not dramatic, it was not rushed, but it was powerful. Later, they returned to the house to rest. She sat by the window, gazing out at the sunlit fields, while he moved quietly around the room, tidying small things. She watched him, noticing how careful he was, how even his smallest actions seemed full of thought and care. She realized that love was reflected not only in words but in actions, gentle, consistent, and thoughtful actions that spoke louder than any promise could. As the day shifted into afternoon, the bride began to feel a deeper courage stirring inside her. She understood that intimacy was not about rushing or forcing, but about trust, connection, and mutual care. She turned to him, her voice quiet but steady. I think I'm ready," she said. "Not because I have to be, but because I want to be with you, fully." The rancher smiled warmly, his eyes filled with pride and love. "And I will be here," he said. "Every step of the way, we will move together, slowly and with care." Always. She felt a swell of emotion. She had spent hours, days even, learning to trust him, to understand that love could be patient and gentle. And now, with that trust firmly rooted, she was ready to take the next step, not out of obligation or expectation, but because of the deep connection they had nurtured. They spent the afternoon together in quiet intimacy, not hurried, not rushed, but filled with understanding and care. They shared touches and gestures that were meaningful and deliberate, each one reinforcing their trust and connection. The bride felt her fear dissolve with every gentle action, replaced by confidence in their love and belief in their bond. As evening fell, they moved to the porch once again. The sky was painted in soft shades of pink and orange, the perfect backdrop for reflection and quiet conversation. They sat close together, watching the sun dip behind the hills, feeling the comfort of shared silence. She rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the solid strength of his presence. "I feel safe," she whispered, "more than I ever thought I could. And I feel loved, truly loved." He kissed her forehead gently. "That's because you are," he said softly. "You are loved, valued, and cherished. Not for what you do, not for what you seem, but for who you are. And I promise, I will always make you feel that way." Tears fell freely now, tears of relief, happiness, and deep gratitude. She felt the weight of fear and doubt lift from her shoulders, replaced by hope and certainty. She understood fully that the rancher's love was steadfast, unwavering, and true. She had learned that patience, care, and trust were the most powerful expressions of love, and she felt fortunate beyond measure to have someone who offered all of these in abundance. That night they prepared for bed together. She felt no pressure, only anticipation for the quiet closeness they would share. He helped her with small gestures, adjusting pillows, bringing a warm blanket, and offering quiet words of encouragement. She realized that the beauty of their love was in these little things, the simple acts of care that spoke volumes. They sat together on the bed, hands intertwined, sharing quiet conversation and laughter. They spoke about the future, their hopes and dreams, and the life they wanted to build together. Every word, every glance, every gentle touch reinforced the connection they had formed. It was not dramatic or rushed, but steady, deep, and profoundly moving. As the night wore on, the bride felt a sense of completion. She understood now that love was not about rushing, not about forcing, and not about perfection. Love was about trust, patience, understanding, and the willingness to be vulnerable with someone who truly cared. And she knew, without a doubt, that the rancher was that person for her. Finally, they lay down together, side by side, hands still intertwined. She rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, and allowed herself to drift into a peaceful sleep. The night was quiet, filled with the gentle presence of love, trust, and care. She felt safe, cherished, and understood, more than she ever had before. Outside, the ranch was bathed in the soft glow of moonlight. Inside, the couple slept peacefully, connected not just by proximity, but by the profound understanding and trust they had built together. Their love was quiet, patient, and strong, a love that would continue to grow, nurtured by care, respect, and shared moments of tenderness. The days that followed continued in this manner. Every morning and every night brought small, meaningful moments of connection. They worked together on the ranch, shared meals, and enjoyed quiet conversations under the sun and stars. Every shared glance, every gentle touch, every kind word strengthened their bond, weaving a tapestry of love and trust that was unbreakable. The bride found herself smiling more, laughing more, and feeling a sense of confidence she had never known. She understood that true intimacy was not about speed or pressure, but about the courage to trust and the willingness to care for one another fully. The rancher's patience, understanding, and unwavering support allowed her to grow in ways she had never imagined. One evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sky turn deep shades of purple and blue, she turned to him with a soft smile. "I understand now," she said. "Love is not about rushing. It's about trust, patience, and care. And I feel so lucky to have all of that with you." He smiled back, his eyes warm and steady. "And I feel lucky to have you," he replied. "We will continue this journey together, always, step by step, day by day, with care, love, and patience." The bride rested her head on his shoulder once more, feeling the comfort, warmth, and strength of his presence. She knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And in that quiet, peaceful moment, she felt hope, love, and a deep sense of fulfillment. Their journey had begun with patience and care, and it would continue in the same way, slow, steady, and full of genuine, unwavering love. The night deepened, and they finally went inside, hand in hand, ready to rest and continue their life together. The ranch was silent, but inside the house, their hearts were full. They had discovered the true meaning of love: trust, patience, understanding, and care. And with that foundation, they knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together, with hearts intertwined and souls connected. In the stillness of the ranch, beneath the moon and stars, they slept, safe, loved, and certain of the bond they had built. And as dawn would rise again, they would wake together, ready to continue their journey, step by step, day by day, in patience, love, and unwavering trust.